Deadline has come. Deadline is gone. Yankees back on a roll as they have won 5 straight, 65 and 45 now on the year. Their general manager, Brian Cashman, is with us here on the show. Brian, it's BT and Sal. How you doing today?
I'm all right, guys. How are you?
We are doing well. Listen, there's so many things we want to jump around and hit. Let's start with this, Brian. So the plan that you, in your mind, had, say, a week or so ago versus everything that you were able to do before the deadline expired. Did you hit everything? Did you miss a couple of things? Where were we with that?
I didn't hit everything I wanted to do. No, listen, if you could, write your own script, I would certainly would have hit on everything I wanted to hit on, and that would have meant, a surfing analogy, the way is breaking your way, every which way you wanted as you approach this deadline, what was available, or even some things that might, have become available or potentially obtainable as you're having these dialogues with your 29 counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I definitely didn't hit everything. I hit on what I hit on. I'm happy with what I brought in. I like the team that we have, and I certainly would love to keep going. And even on the teams that we've been the last team standing with, in the end, while you're in it, you're always wishing you could have done more, because you want to always. It's about trying to do everything you can to improve your chances within reason when you can find those matches. But
yep.
So.
Well, Brian, what are the knocks here? And obviously a lot of great regular season success. We know it's been a while since a championship. Trust me, we know that you try to change that. One of the knocks on the Yankees is that they haven't been, quote unquote, as all in as they used to be. And I've said that, not necessarily here, but I've certainly said that in the past. And when you look at what needs to be done, I think what's very frustrating to me and others is the last couple of years, this huge payroll, and here we are, June, July, wondering what the Yankees are going to do to fix it. Like, it just seems with every year there's still so many things to fix, despite a really high payroll. So why is that the case?
Well, I just think it's, I think in some cases, they're definitely, I guess you could argue that correctly. In other cases, maybe, it's overblown. I think, there's no real perfect beast typically out there. And even when you have some perfect beasts, that I still remember when the Tigers had been running out their high end with Price and Scherzer and Verlander, and they got knocked out. They didn't, they assembled such an amazing rotation. So it cuts both ways. We've had honestly, we've had playoff contending, championship contending rosters. Certainly we had higher expectations on the years gone by on some of them, and then others. There certainly were some years that it was a struggle. But all I can tell you is we try to hit it every which way we can, and we approach this deadline just like we approach this winter, like every deadline and every winter the same way. With what's available, can we pull it down? Can we access it? And we do what we can, and when we can't, we go on to try to compete with it.
And now that the deadline has come to an end here, Brian, what do you think your club's biggest weakness is?
I wouldn't say we have a weakness. I think we got a lot of strengths. It's just is the collection good enough? I think we have a really strong pitching unit. I think we have a really strong offensive unit, and are there better individual players at certain categories? In other environments, the answer is going to come back yes. Is there a better collection of players as a team? We're about to find out. I know, I know we have a really good team that is capable of obviously being that last team standing, and now we're going to go find out. And I know we added to it, and I know I'm happy with what we have. I mean, this was our deadline, obviously, but obviously building this roster, started obviously in the wintertime, and it continued through the deadline, and here we are. And we look forward to now hoping we can stay healthy with the guys we have that are active, and looking forward to getting all the other guys that are in the wings on the IL, getting them back too, and having them join the party and see how far we can go.
Yeah, and look,
I think we're championship caliber.
Yeah, and some people, and look, old teams have some weaknesses, and some people were picking on Clay Holmes, saying, they'd rather have a better closer. Maybe you could have got more oil in there. Some people are concerned about Garrett Cole and now the fatigue and what's he going to be, or the inconsistency of the starting rotation. So that's why I asked about the weakness. And speaking on the rotation, there were some reports that you were close with Flaherty, a deal for him, but the medicals held it up. Can you just clear up what you meant when you said that you didn't match up? What did that mean exactly? We talking prospects? We talking finances? What was the deal with the holdup with Jack Flaherty?
Yeah, it wasn't finances. Like we were on, we had a line connected to the Tigers all the way through the deadline witching hour of 6 p.m. yesterday, and clearly they made a move with the Dodgers. They would know what time it was, whether it was 5:45, whether it was 5:30, whatever time it was. But we stayed in contact with them all the way till the end, hoping that somehow we would connect and find common ground on that one. But that's true of a lot of different circumstances at the same time. And in that one, it went a different direction, and that's how it works. They found matches with another organization and value that they liked the most, and they deployed, Jack Flaherty that way. And that's it. He's a hell of a pitcher. And he's going to make them better, and we certainly were on it and trying to import it. And we were on a lot of different things, trying to improve on whether it was the rotation or added pieces to the pen or what have you, and also position player side. But ultimately, what we pulled is what we pulled. Sometimes we don't match up. We'll talk to an organization. They're like, "Listen, you don't have it. You don't match up. Other organizations, you have it. This is what we want. We wouldn't give, or." Hey, we made a connection. We found it, and obviously that brings Chisholm and Leiter and De Los Santos in when we found the common ground. Mm-hmm. So there's a ton of conversations otherwise, but this is what we got to show for that.
So we're talking to Brian Cashman, GM of the Yankees, of course, BT and Sal here on the Fan. So can we assume, Brian, that if the right deal, whether it was Flaherty or somebody else, that you guys would have parted with Spencer Jones?
We were open-minded to, a lot of our high-end stuff in the right circumstance. So it depends on the player. I'm not going to tell you what player, but we were very flexible and open-minded to doing a lot of different things depending on who it was and who you're talking about. My owner wanted every opportunity brought to him like he always does. That's how he operates. This wasn't unique to this deadline. It's the same in the wintertime. Every chance, bring it to him.
Yep.
He'll tell you yay or nay, or he'll overrule, or he'll tell you, you can't do that. But he wanted everything deciphered, and don't worry about the payroll. Just come to me, and we'll make a decision. And so he's always been.
But do you sense a different urgency with Hal? I mean, listen, I know you guys hear the noise, and you've been doing this a long time. And one of the things that listen, I'm just being honest, that I really do respect about you is that you take the bullets. You take them, you keep going. And I've delivered a few. Yeah, I've said that. Like, I've been critical. I've also praised you where I think you've earned it. But does it seem like now Hal is at a point, maybe because Soto could lead, because Judge is in his prime, Garrett Cole's in his prime. It's been a long time since you guys have won. Steve Cohen's over in Queens. Like, does Hal seem a little restless, more so than usual now, to win?
I think the Steinbrenner DNA is they're always restless. So, you see, that's why you trade for a Soto in the wintertime on a one-year walk year, for instance, as an example. Every year we're trying to – I remember Roger Clemens, like, the Yankees, they don't rebuild, they reload. He said that constantly as an homage to this organization and how the Steinbrenner family runs it. And it's true. Every year we're trying to find a way to add to it, repackage it, improve upon it to push us through. And
but Brian, hold on, Brian. With all due respect, that sounds good, and I do believe it. But based on what we've seen over the years, and listen, not to relitigate the past, but it's part of the current, what you just said. Yeah, okay. So if the urgency was always there, Well, then, why was Gallo given the leash that he was? Why was Hicks given the leash that he was? Like, I know that Hal wants to win, and I know that you want to win, but the highest of urgency to win, I have not seen that the last couple of years quite the way we used to in the past. I haven't, and I don't think I'm alone. So that's why I ask, it doesn't feel different with Hal this year at all?
Well, I'd have to. I guess I'd have to get that drug tester over there and let you pee in a bottle so we can get that sample tested.
Let's go.
I'm obviously joking, but at the end of the day,
send it over.
I would provide all the look at the roster, look at the expenditures, the retention of Aaron Judge, the free agent sign. So you got an MVP, you got a Cy Young Award winner, you got an MVP type of candidate imported that's big money. You got a retention of an MVP, perennial MVP candidate a couple of years back with LeMahieu when he was a free agent. All designed. These are just examples of all designed as the payrolls go higher of improving your chances, of trying to stay in it, trying to fight for it. So I would refute what you're saying. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up.
No, it does make sense. What do you mean? What do you mean it doesn't make any sense? It makes sense.
I think when the dust settles, it just comes down to, did we win the World Series or did we not? And if we didn't win the World Series, then obviously all this stuff comes into play where you question their hunger. You asked about, why does Gallo get the leash he had, or why did Hicks get the leash he had? Well, it depends on what the alternatives were and the ability to import on those alternatives at the time. And so, it's not quite as simple as that. But I think when the dust settles, it just comes down to the emotionality of we didn't finish it off, we haven't won, and therefore, this stuff gets louder and louder and louder. But to your original question is, Hal more restless? Is he more hungry? I would tell you Hal was always hungry, and he's always restless, just like his dad has always been hungry and always restless. And that's how I'd answer that question, to be quite honest.
Right. Brian, what's the plan with Luis Gil moving forward?
That's in the hands of our pitching coaches, and our pitching coordinator. Obviously, I think we said publicly, without a doubt, we said it in spring training that we're in a much better position to monitor players in this day and age than we were years gone by. So they are staying in touch. They're dealing with it. He's obviously being deployed because they believe he's still in a good spot, and if that changes, you'll see some other changes to that. So that's really in the hands of our staff.
And why do you think Anthony Volpe has been so inconsistent? I was saying he's on the verge of superstardom to start this year. You could clearly see the potential in him as a ball player. It's now been a year plus with Volpe where he's shown some ups and downs. Why has he been so inconsistent?
He's a young player finding his way in the major leagues. I mean, he had probably less than 50 games at AAA when he earned the right to be our everyday shortstop, and so he wasn't a finished product. I agree with you. I think he's capable of a lot. I think he's providing a lot. And I think there's a lot more upside there on the bat than he has been able to show consistently. But obviously you're seeing, a closer version probably of what he is right now in the most recent few weeks, especially since the All-Star break. Listen, this is a hard game. And even though you have, as you know, all the credentials and the ability, as a young player, unlocking them and tapping them into them as a consistent guy, it becomes more and more difficult. So, it doesn't matter if you're a pitcher or a hitter. You've seen that, that story told time and time again, and sometimes it takes longer than we all would want. Look at Austin Wells, for instance. Austin Wells is now earning the right to be considered to hit in the middle of our lineup, with a team that's, one of the higher runs scoring programs in the MLB. And earlier in the year, he was struggling. And last year when he got called up, it was a struggle. And he's an offensive profile bat ahead of his defense, per se. He's worked his tail off on the defense. But this guy's starting to really swing the bat on a consistent basis and give us comfort. So it just takes time. It's a hard game.
I like Austin Wells. And by the way, Brian, some of the, even with the numbers, and we talked a lot about him, me and Sal, where early on he was scuffling, but I'm like, I don't know. Some of these advanced analytics actually say, and I kind of saw with my own eyes as well, he was squaring up the ball a little bit better than the numbers would have said. I think he's a hitter. I want to ask you something about Torres. I was talking to Brian Cashman, BT, and Sal here on The Fan. So, Gleyber Torres, man, he is interesting. He's got a ton of talent. We know the whole Gleyber Torres experience, all the good and all the bad and all the frustrating stuff. I wonder, Brian, because I know how I would react behind closed doors if you or Boone. When he was asked the other day, like, hey, what about third base? And he basically just said, without saying it, I'm not going anywhere. I'm a second baseman. Where Jazz Chisholm comes in and basically says, I'll play center, I'll play third, I'll hit wherever you want me. To me, Brian, it was a bad look for a player who's regressed, a player whose effort we have questioned often on the air because we know he's gifted. If he wasn't gifted, we wouldn't chastise him the way we do at times. And I wonder how much of a turnoff, if any, that was to the franchise. You guys are trying to win a championship, and you got maybe enough pieces to do it. And here's the player saying, "Nah, I'm not moving." What was your reaction to that?
Well, over the course of time, I try not to read stuff anymore. It's unhealthy for me. But
understood.
But I don't listen to your show, all due respect, and all that stuff. Because again, I just got to keep my head plowing through. So listen, if we were all judged, if on this call right now with you, if I make a soundbite mistake, which is certainly possible, or maybe I already did it, who knows?
Nah, you good.
It can play pretty ugly because especially the market we're in. So I would just say, yes, I acknowledge that, it didn't look good, and the way it plays and the way it stays, the way he said it and stuff like that. But ultimately, you got his authentic self, just like, the other one, you got his authentic self. I'd say that maybe they're both in a different spot currently in terms of confidence and how they're going about their business and how they feel about their business.
Yep. So
as Gleyber's approaching his free agency and he's got his last 2 months and he's been struggling at times and now potentially has to move to a position that he has, a little bit of experience in when he came to us in the minor leagues, it's not like the most, hey, I want to do that, so I think he got his authentic answer, for better or for worse. I wouldn't judge him on his commentary. You got his real, default on it, either way, which, he would provide to our manager directly even before any interviews. And, hey, it's tough. It's tough to play this game. It's tough to play this game on the field. And then it's tougher to play this game at times when you're in there with lights, camera, action and be on your best A game when you're dealing with the press. And sometimes, you're going to say stuff that there's going to be blowback from saying it, but he's a good kid. He works hard. He cares. And hopefully he's going to impact that win column the most important time now, which is these last 2 months, because he's really, like you just said, he's really talented and he's a good kid. He loves being a Yankee. So I would just say throw it away and let's just hope he can provide what he can provide, which is a hell of a bat. And he's better defensively than he's shown recently this year, no doubt about it. But he's got time, like Reggie Jackson always used to say, if he's got the bat, Reggie said, strike out 3 times. If I got the bat in my hand, I can change the storyline. Yeah. He's got the bat in his hand. The next 2 months, he can change the storyline. And so hopefully you allow that to happen and we can win a lot of games and be happy in the end.
Hey, by the way, I agree with you. I do think too often we react, not just in sports, but in society, to a soundbite, and it becomes inflamed, and we overreact, and contextualization is lost. I'm with you on that, Brian, but, and I hear you on Gleyber, and I do think that his teammates like him, and I do think that he loves being a Yankee, and I'm prepared to move on from it, but I think that it's the problem with him is that at least what he puts out, he's got a little canoe in him in terms of the effort or the motor, or he's very talented where it makes it look easy almost. I think yes, it is a soundbite, but it's too, and tell me if I'm wrong, it's too reflective at times of the effort that he puts out there to give him a total pass. Does that make any sense? I don't think that that's unfair, and it's a long body of work as a Yankee at this point. It's not year 1 or 2, but you tell me if you think that I'm off base with that.
Listen, none of us get passes. We're all judged by every single thing, how we go about it, how we look while we're doing it, and and ultimately getting the job done. And that's all fair game. And some people do it with flair. Some people do it. I remember the boss back in the day used to, when Ramiro Mendoza was on the mound, and he always did really well for us, but at times he didn't. He was very stoic, no matter what, either way. But it drove the boss nuts when he failed, for instance, and got knocked around. He used to say to me, "It looks like he doesn't care." Right? And I'm like, no, that's just who he is. That's how he goes about his business. That's his personality, his nature. So you can have the extremes of Chisholm, and you're going to have the extremes of somebody that's more stoic or going about it. And, so I remember like when we got Verdugo, it was something that in Boston, when we were doing our real dig down on his makeup and character and stuff, and that guy's got compete factor off the chart, but people would drive people nuts if he didn't run a ball out. And the real backline story was he cares so much he gets into his head as he rolls over on a pitch that he thought he could drive into the gap. And while he's running out of the box lightly, just so mad at himself, it looks like he's not giving effort, but he's internally beating himself up from, a ball he thought he should have drove. And, he's posting every day, even through injuries at times. And so it's just all perspective. At the end of the day, if you get a chance to get to know these individuals, and sometimes how it looks isn't reflective of how it should be. And sometimes, listen, we're going to talk about old stuff all the time now, just because they're examples. But I remember Alfonso Soriano, who was a great player. He was a tremendous player. It drove our fan base nuts, and it drove our manager nuts. And everybody nuts that he would pimp a home run how many times, like he thought it was a homer, and it'd wind up being a single, a double off off the wall. He didn't run it out, and he wound up stuck at first base. And I can't tell you how many times Joe Torre would tell him, confront him, and yet it was just his instinct. That was his instinctive reaction, and you couldn't get it out of his system. It just never changed, and it wasn't because it wasn't addressed, talked to, or it wasn't willing or trying. It's just was his default, because that's how he was baptized into this world. And you try to improve upon certain things, but you also can't make somebody something they're not either.
Last one from me, Brian, real quick, and we do appreciate your time. BT and Sal on the fan in for Evan and Tiki. How much did the pending free agency of Juan Soto here impact your trade deadline plans? And is Soto going to have to take a discount like Judge did to remain in pinstripes?
They're good questions. On the first one, didn't impact us because I feel like we go to market, whether you believe it or not, trying to do the best we can. I will acknowledge that if there was an import that we were able to pull off with huge money attached going forward, that could have compromised our play on any free agent at a high level in the wintertime. But we never got, just in a vague general, we never got to the point where we matched up on value regardless. So as we were having those conversations, there was a recognition of, if we did this, I don't know how this could really run interference with having enough to do anything on another level. But none of that came into enough of a focus that was, something of a more big time conversation to have with ownership. But it was certainly talked about. Obviously we want to play on Soto. He's earned the right to get the free agency, and it's going to be a big number regardless of whoever's playing on it. But I don't know. I think I tried to answer the best I can.
Well, I mean, I just think it's a fair question because the Yankees, when I was growing up hating the Yankees, they were spending the most on every player and getting that player. Now, with Judge's case, you guys got outbid. That, to me, is unique. Like, wow, the New York Yankees got outbid on one of their own. Now, he came back. Credit to him. Credit to you guys for working it out. But I get the feeling, now, I don't know. You would know better than me. But if that happens with Soto, I'm not so sure he's going to be in pinstripes. And we know that there might be another owner in town who's willing to go to a certain extent. I don't know these things. That's why I just wanted to ask you, are the Yankees going to go to the highest extent to be able to keep Juan Soto in pinstripes? All I can do is ask the question. You could answer it however you want.
No, I definitely can answer it because I can honestly tell you at that time, we didn't know where Judge was. So as far as we're concerned, we were putting out a number that we stretched farther and farther and farther, well out of our comfort zone. We did that this past winter with Yamamoto, and of course, we'll do that with all the free agents, but we don't know what they're getting. We don't know. In some cases, when the dust settles, we blew somebody out by a lot more. It comes out later with the reporting. All these writers are really good, where next you know, we outbid somebody by $75 million over on the guarantee, or hey, this guy took, or it turns out this guy took less, and there was not one, there was two, there was three teams that offered more, but they wanted to be here. But we don't know any of that. We're just flying blind as we're walking through it and reacting to the agent and what he's sharing with us and what the demands are and what it's going to take. And then we're dealing with ownership who's got to make very difficult calls as he stretches on these bigger tickets. So that's the reality of it. You know, you don't know if you're getting played, and you don't know if, you know, you find out after the fact as much as you can, and the reporting is always going to be there. But in the front end of it, you don't know what. You're a blind mouse on this thing.
So, but Brian, but don't you think that there, and maybe it's unique with Soto, but you don't think like, you know, Scott Boras can theoretically come to you and say, hey, listen, we've got, I'm just throwing something out, we got $550 from Team X. He wants to stay here. Here's our parameters. Like you'll have no guideline whatsoever?
Well, every negotiation is different, and every agent and how they approach it is different. So I can't speculate on how it's going to play out. I've done a lot of deals with Scott Boras, and we as an organization, because it's obviously we're made up of people above me that have the same type relationships. Randy Levine, Al Steinbrenner, he knows Scott extremely well. They talk constantly, and we'll continue. And so sometimes we are successful in connecting on one of his clients, and other times we're not. But each negotiation is unique and different in its own right, and the market dictates. The player, obviously, you know, will dictate what he wants, and the market certainly will dictate how it plays out. And it's hard to predict every year. It's so different. You know, I use Yamamoto as an example. I think the whole industry clearly was interested in on that, but no one would have predicted where that went. And you know, and that took a long time, played out, and a huge commitment, and extremely talented kid, and who saw that coming? And you just got to walk through it and live with whatever happens, and put your best forward that you can deal with. And I think we consistently try to do that. But how that plays out, you're asking, are we going to be the last team standing, or are we going to not let ourselves get outbid? I can't. You're just going to play through it, you know, the best we can, and see where it takes us.
And listen, there's gut, and then there's things you can really quantify. You feel like he wants to stay?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I think he likes playing here, but I also, the way he swings the bat, I think he likes playing everywhere. And I know one thing. I think he is such a robot. He eats, drinks, and baseball, and then he goes home and rests and comes back, and that's it. And so, and he hits in every ballpark, and nothing changes who he is as a player, whether it was in Washington, San Diego, or now New York. So, hey, he's put himself in a great position. He's worked his tail off to get there. I tip my cap to him on that. He's earned that right, and so at this stage, stay out of the way and let him play, because that's ultimately how it's playing out.
Brian,
then we'll have a conversation. We'll have a conversation, obviously, in the end. And Scott Boras is representational. Will give us whatever information he provides.
I got you. I didn't mean to step on you there. Listen, one more thing, and it's totally different and really generous with your time. So sincerely say thank you. We're talking to Brian Cashman, GM of the Yankees. Now, you've been doing this a long time, and you said about 15, 20 minutes ago to us that, you don't listen to the radio. You got to put your head down. You don't read things. I get it. You got to do your job. This goes back to Mike and Chris. I mean, you've been here a long time, and listen, the nature
you
of
say a long time like it's bad.
No, hey, get out! No, I'm kidding.
Well, wouldn't be the first time you said it.
I'm kidding. Not open that door.
not at all, man.
We can do a comedy. We got to do something in the wintertime where it's a nice comedy back and forth.
Listen, we're down for anything. And listen, I'm a fan, man. I think you're a stand-up guy. Now, like I said, nobody's perfect, but I do think what's happened with you is because of the way society goes now, we always fixate or tend to gravitate to and toward and illuminate negatives, right? That's just the hot take world. It's the click world, and it sucks, quite frankly. And it's not always a representation of the truth. After all these years, Brian, do you feel, either underappreciated or even slightly disrespected by the Yankee fan base? Because nobody's really saying, well, what you used to do well, it's always, we need this, he didn't get that, why didn't he do this? I wonder how you juggle that and process that.
I mean, to be quite honest, I recognize the environment that I'm in, that I work with. I feel really fortunate to have a chance to be working with one of the greatest sports franchises ever. But that comes with a lot to deal with, not just trying to do the job to the best of your abilities, for better or for worse, but then dealing with it. So the one thing, I have been pliable. I have changed because, I used to want to read everything because I wanted to be in a position to get the pulse of everything that's out there. But I think the landscape of that has changed with social media and then how the writers or talk shows or what have you, are so connected, which is awesome, for you guys, with your fans and our fans, the Yankee fans, with social media, that it's certainly become maybe crippling or unhealthy if I, started to wade in those waters like I used to. I think that landscape has completely changed the equation. So I don't want to be distracted with getting emotional or defensive or protective or upset. So if you come at me, for instance, do I want to be not, having the ability to, I want to have a real conversation with you right now rather than I'm angry with you before I get on the phone, because that's not professional, and that's not me being able to do my job to answer your legitimate questions to the best of my ability so our fans can hear it, whether they like the answers or not. So I feel like it's the best way for me to navigate things. I understand that the natives are restless. Don't get me wrong. And how do I understand that? I tell people constantly, well, I know it might be not too nice out there because I hear a lot from people come up to me, hey, I don't care what they say. I think you're doing a hell of a job. So it's like a backhanded compliment. Yeah. It's like, hey, I think you do a good job, but despite what they say. So I'm like, well, I guess everybody's saying I do a bad job. So, but I'm not a moth to the flame where I need to read about it anymore. I just want to rely on the people I hire that I respect, that have, expertise in various areas, whether it's pitching, hitting, pro scouting, analytics, whatever it happens to be, to guide me, get me all the information, make recommendations, live with whatever decision I can, and then get beat up for it, get praised for it, whatever it happens to be, it's all fair game. I get it.
That's good stuff. Brian, good having you on the show. Really very, very generous with your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Let's go Yanks.
There you go.
I'm not going to go that far.
No, I'll go that far.
I'm
Let's
not
go
going to go
Yanks.
that far. No, hold on a second here.
Hey, listen. If
you chewed up too much time fighting with him. I want to ask him if he was embarrassed by the Subway Series results. And then I let it go because it was getting a little testy, and then he's going to end it with a let's go Yanks. Come on. Hey, sign him up, man.
That was good.
Extend him. That was great. He really is transparent, which he's always been.
Always has been
and
that guy.
It's nice to be able to have the opportunity to talk to him. And we know we went over the time, but we do appreciate it. So thank you to the Yankees and thanks to Cash for spending some time.
Big time, thanks, no doubt. 888-808-1019, BT and Sal sitting in for Evan and Tiki here on the Fan inside of our Town Fair Tire studio, powered by Town Fair. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Get these Yankee calls. Get the Mets up there as well. A little something with Rogers and the Jets. A couple of flare-ups there with Garrett. So we got it all. We're here until 7, but certainly we will react to